There are times when you must learn to trust, not your eyes, but your inner sensing. To walk not by sight, but by a deeper knowing. If you are watching this now, it is because something in your spirit has already responded to a frequency beyond the visible world. The message did not come to you randomly. It was already vibrating in the silence long before your ears heard it. When you encounter a message like this, it is not just content. It is a calling, a sacred invitation from the divine, wrapped in the stillness between your thoughts. And when a calling comes, it does not ask if you are ready. It simply waits for you to awaken. Many people spend their lives surrounded by noise. Noise from the world, noise from technology, noise from unresolved emotions. But within every chosen one, there is a moment when the noise becomes unbearable, not because of pain, but because of the knowing that they were not made for ordinary living. The chosen Christian is not the one who tries to appear spiritual. It is the one who knows that true spirituality does not need to appear. It simply is. It moves quietly, acts with compassion, breathes with grace, and listens deeply. If your spirit has stirred while listening to this, it is because you are not being introduced to something new, you are being reminded of something eternal. You may not remember the exact moment you were chosen, but the divine never forgets. Before your name was given to you by your parents, you already had a name in the heavens. That name carried with it a frequency, an assignment, a weight, and a path. And no matter how far you have drifted, no matter how broken your past might appear, that assignment has not been erased. It has only waited for your awareness to return to it. The chosen are not chosen because they are perfect. They are chosen because they are willing to return, willing to surrender, willing to be made whole. Every era of human existence has its pivotal moment, a moment when those who are asleep must be awakened, a moment when timelines shift, a moment when heaven draws closer, not to scare, but to prepare. July 10, 2025 is not just a day on the calendar, it is a spiritual checkpoint, a divine alignment point where heaven is calling forth those whose hearts have ears to hear. It is not about fear, it is not about disaster, it is about awakening, about remembering, about rising into what you were always meant to be. If this message has found you before that day, it is because you were meant to hear it. And more than hear it, you were meant to act upon it. The call of the divine does not speak in language you hear with your ears. It speaks in inner resonance. In those moments when you feel something move within you without being able to explain it. That movement is not random. It is sacred. It is the spirit responding to the higher vibration of truth. Many people want signs in the clouds, but the chosen learn to read the signs within their own being. If you are honest with yourself, you already know when you are aligned and when you are not. You already know when you are walking in light and when you are playing with shadows. The chosen do not pretend that darkness does not exist. They simply choose not to live in it. They choose to return to the light again and again, even when it is uncomfortable. God does not call you for your comfort. He calls you for your commitment. He does not wait for your perfection. He looks for your permission. And once your spirit gives permission, the transformation begins. Not on the outside, but within. That is where the real work happens. Quietly, invisibly, like a seed breaking under the soil. The chosen Christian is not obsessed with performance. They are anchored in presence, the presence of God, the presence of peace, the presence of clarity that says, I am not here by accident. There is a reason you feel things others don't, a reason your heart aches when others are numb, a reason you wake in the night sensing something more. That reason is simple. You are not like the rest, not because you are better, but because you are sensitive to truth. Sensitivity to truth is the first sign of spiritual maturity. You don't need to understand everything to follow the path. You simply need to trust the next step. And even when the next step is in the dark, even when the road is unclear, the light within you knows where to go. Many are called, few respond. Not because they are unworthy, but because they are distracted. But when you respond to the call, everything begins to change. Your relationships shift, your desires refine, your energy becomes different. You no longer tolerate the things that once entertained you. You seek deeper connection, more silence, more clarity. This is not isolation, it is purification. The world may not understand it, but your soul does. Your soul knows that this is not just another season. It is preparation for something divine. God often speaks most clearly before significant shifts, not to frighten you, but to ready you. He knows your strength even when you doubt it. He knows your worth even when others don't see it. He knows your potential even when you feel stuck. But His knowing is not enough. It is your agreement with that knowing that activates change. Your agreement is a sacred contract that says, I am ready to remember who I really am. Sometimes the path feels lonely. Sometimes you question, why me? But the chosen don't ask why. They ask what. What must I learn? What must I release? What must I become? These questions lead to elevation. These questions lead to realignment. These questions pull you out of ego and into essence. And in your essence you find that your identity was never based on your past, your failures, or your fears. Your identity was always based on your alignment with the divine. And once you align, the world may not applaud, but heaven will take notice. The reason July 10 matters is because heaven has placed its finger on that moment. And you are being invited not to panic, but to prepare. Preparation is a sign of respect. You prepare because you recognize the value of what's coming. You prepare your heart because you understand the weight of the encounter. You prepare your habits because your future cannot sit upon the same foundation your past was built on. Something new is emerging, not just around you, but within you. And if you ignore it, you don't delay heaven, you delay yourself. There is nothing more painful than spiritual procrastination, when the soul is ready, but the mind resists. When the spirit is willing, but the body is addicted to old patterns. But this is the moment to break that cycle, not through force, not through shame, but through surrender. Surrender is not weakness, it is sacred strength. It is saying, I no longer need to control everything. I choose to be guided. And in that choice, everything changes. You don't need to convince anyone that you are chosen. Your fruit will speak, your peace will testify, your presence will shift rooms. This is not about being famous in the world. It is about being faithful in your calling. A candle does not need a crowd to shine. It only needs a wick and fire. And if God has placed that fire within you, protect it, feed it, guard it from the winds of doubt and the storms of comparison, because that fire is holy, that fire is your compass. There are many people who feel the call but try to silence it with distraction, with busyness, with noise. But that call does not go away. It will return in your dreams, in your quiet moments, in the tears you cannot explain. Because it is not a call from outside. It is the echo of who you truly are, the real you, the awakened you, the aligned you. Before July 10 arrives, choose who you will be, not based on the pressure of the world, but based on the promise of your purpose. The world is changing quickly, and those who are not rooted will be shaken. But those who have prepared in silence will stand in stillness. This is your moment to choose alignment over anxiety, depth over drama, purpose over popularity, and most of all, truth over trend. You were not born for survival, you were born for significance. Not significance that demands attention, but significance that carries light. You don't have to know how the story ends. You only need to take the next step with intention, with purity, with awareness. And trust that everything your soul is sensing right now is not a lie. It is not imagination, it is divine intelligence, guiding you toward your assignment. If this message has awakened something in you, honor it. Don't rush to explain it. Don't argue with it. Just sit with it. Let it breathe. Let it lead you into silence. And let the silence lead you into alignment. Because when the soul aligns, it remembers. And when it remembers, it no longer fears the future. It walks into it with sacred clarity. You were not created to carry chaos within you. You were not designed to live with constant inner noise, restlessness, and unresolved energy. Deep within every chosen one is the yearning for harmony. Not the harmony that comes from controlling the world, but the harmony that arises when your body, mind, and spirit fall into sacred alignment. This is the preparation. This is the work before the breakthrough. Before anything external shifts, the internal temple must be purified. And that temple is not somewhere far away. That temple is you. We live in a time where many people focus on appearances, on how things seem, on what others can see. But spiritual maturity does not blossom in the spotlight. It grows in silence, in the places no one claps for, in the places where no one sees. What is unseen is not insignificant. It is often the most sacred. And your inner world is sacred. Your thoughts are sacred. Your emotions are sacred. What flows through you becomes the frequency you live in. And if your inner world is heavy, dark, bitter, or chaotic, no outer success will bring peace. This is why purification must happen, not to impress God, but to allow God to dwell fully within you. There are many people who speak about transformation, but few who make space for it. You cannot fill a cup that is already full of noise. You cannot pour in light where darkness has taken root and been allowed to thrive. And you cannot align with divine frequency while holding on to spiritual toxins. This is why you must make a conscious decision, not one based on fear, but on reverence, to cleanse yourself from anything that clogs the spiritual pathway between you and the divine. This is not about religious performance. It's not about how loudly you pray or how often you post scriptures. It's about the posture of your inner being. Are you carrying unforgiveness? Are you feeding judgment? Are you addicted to comparison? Are you defending your bitterness while asking for blessing? These are hard questions, but they are necessary questions. Because the chosen Christian understands, I cannot carry both poison and prophecy. I cannot speak about heaven while cultivating hell in my thoughts. The body is not separate from the spirit. The body is a container of spirit. What you eat, how you breathe, how you move, these things matter, not because they save your soul, but because they shape your awareness. A sluggish body leads to a distracted mind. A restless body feeds anxious energy. When your body is weighed down by substances, lack of movement, or toxic patterns, your spirit struggles to rise freely. This is why ancient wisdom always emphasized discipline, not as punishment, but as purification. The body must be clean, not to be accepted, but to be clear. Clear enough to hear, to discern, to move when the divine speaks. And what of the mind? The mind is a garden. And like any garden, it will grow what is planted. If you do not take authority over the thoughts that enter and repeat, the weeds of worry and fear will overrun the soil. You are not the first person to feel overwhelmed, scattered, doubtful. But you must remember, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind your thoughts. And when you return to that place of watching, observing without clinging, you return to power. Not the power to control the world, but the power to respond with stillness. And in that stillness, you reclaim clarity. The mind is not an enemy to fight. It is a space to renew. Every day, every hour, you have a choice. Will I feed the fear, or will I cultivate the quiet? Many people try to change their lives by changing circumstances, but the chosen know. Outer change is temporary without inner transformation, and inner transformation begins with purification. Purification is not a ritual. It is not a list of rules. It is the sacred practice of removing what no longer serves the divine within you. It is saying, I will no longer tolerate what poisons my peace. I will no longer nurture thoughts that contradict who I am becoming. I will no longer allow emotions to sit unchecked and undigested in my spirit. Some emotions are visitors. They arrive because of wounds. But if you never cleanse those wounds, the emotions become residents. Resentment becomes your resting state. Frustration becomes your familiar space. But your soul was not made to be a landfill for emotional debris. Your soul was made to be a temple, a place of light, a place where grace flows freely. And that grace cannot move through clutter. This is why you must purify, not as a performance, but as a practice, a daily practice of letting go, of forgiveness, not just of others, but of yourself, of releasing the need to be right and replacing it with the desire to be real. To be chosen is to be held to a higher standard, not by others, but by your own knowing. You cannot carry what others carry. You cannot speak what others speak. You cannot consume what others consume. Because your calling requires clarity. It requires purity of vision, purity of motive, purity of heart, not perfection, but a constant return to alignment. You are not meant to be flawless, but you are meant to be honest, and honesty is the beginning of holiness. As July 10 approaches, the energy around you may intensify, not because of doom, but because heaven is drawing near. The vibration is shifting, and anything within you that does not align with that higher frequency will begin to feel uncomfortable. You may notice restlessness, old patterns resurfacing, relationships straining. This is not attack, it is exposure. God is revealing what cannot go with you into the next chapter, and your task is not to panic. Your task is to purify, not to suppress, but to surrender. There is no shame in needing healing. There is no shame in saying, I have more work to do. The danger is not in having wounds. The danger is in pretending they don't exist. The chosen are not those who never struggle. They are those who choose to heal, who choose to face themselves, who choose to peel back the layers of ego and find truth underneath. And that truth is often uncomfortable. It shakes the image, it disturbs the pattern, but in that disturbance lies your realignment. Don't confuse being busy with being aligned. You can be doing spiritual things and still be spiritually dry. You can speak the right words and still live from fear. That is why the purification must begin deep, beneath the noise, beneath the identity, beneath the public image, and into the sacred chamber of the soul, where only you and God exist. In that space, there is no pretending. There is only presence. And that presence has power to cleanse in ways no ritual ever could. Let yourself be silent. Let yourself be still. Let the fire of awareness burn through what is false. When you sit in silence, you don't lose yourself, you meet yourself. And in meeting yourself, you meet the divine. Because the Spirit of God does not live in churches alone. It lives in awareness. It lives in breath. It lives in the moment. When you choose peace instead of panic. When you choose trust instead of fear. When you choose compassion instead of judgment. These are the real offerings. These are the real sacrifices. You were never asked to be perfect. You were asked to be pure in heart. A pure heart is not a flawless one. It is a soft one, a surrendered one, a heart that says, I will let go of what numbs me. I will make space for what heals me. I will walk with light, even when the path is not fully seen. That is the purification. That is the preparation. Not something done once, but something practiced daily. From now until July 10, make space. In your schedule, in your thoughts, in your spirit. Let go of what pulls you down, even if it is familiar, even if it is comfortable. Sometimes the most spiritual act is simply to release, to say, this is no longer serving my calling. The chosen understand that elevation requires elimination, and what is being removed from your life is not punishment. It is preparation. God is making room. Room in your emotions, room in your time, room in your soul for something greater. something deeper, something true. Your body, mind, and spirit are not separate lines. They are a triangle of sacred energy. What you do to one affects the others. If you abuse the body, the mind becomes cloudy. If the mind is restless, the spirit feels distant. This is why purification must happen on all three levels. Move your body with intention. Feed it with respect. Rest it with reverence. These are not small acts. These are offerings. They say, I honor the vessel that carries the divine. Clean your thoughts, not by suppressing them, but by observing them. Watch them arise and pass. See what repeats. See what wounds they stem from. And from that awareness, choose again. Choose peace. Choose love. Choose thoughts that bring expansion, not contraction. Choose thoughts that align with truth, not trauma. This is the purification of the mind. Not through force, but through focus. And as the body and mind begin to align, the spirit becomes louder, clearer, more present. You begin to feel the presence of God, not just in prayer, but in walking. Not just in worship, but in washing dishes. Not just in church, but in silence. Because God was never far away. God was simply waiting for space. Waiting for the inner temple to be cleansed. And when that temple is ready, the spirit does not visit, it abides. You are not being asked to do everything. You are being asked to do the next right thing. One moment at a time, one breath at a time, one letting go at a time. This is not a sprint. It is a sacred process. Let it unfold. Let it deepen. Let it reveal the parts of you that were buried under survival. Because underneath the fear, underneath the anger, underneath the past, you are whole. You are already what you seek. The purification simply clears the mirror so you can see it again. This is your sacred work, and it begins now, within. Everything in life begins with attention. Wherever your attention flows, energy follows. And wherever energy flows, reality begins to form. This is why the chosen must be extremely intentional about where their focus lies. Your life is not shaped solely by what happens to you. It is shaped by what you choose to notice, what you dwell upon, and how you respond. It is shaped by what you magnify. In the life of the chosen, spiritual warfare is rarely loud. It is subtle. It's in the distractions, in the little delays, in the temptations that don't look evil, but only aim to divide your mind, dilute your vision, and keep you from walking in divine fullness. Therefore, attention is not just mental, it is spiritual. To guard your focus is to guard your future. When a person is called to carry light, the darkness will never attack with fangs. It will attack with forgetfulness. It will make you forget who you are. It will make you forget the power that breathes within you. It will cloud you with fear, with comparison, with meaningless urgency. The enemy knows he doesn't need to destroy you. He only needs to distract you long enough that you walk away from your spiritual posture. He knows you cannot be defeated when you are aligned. So instead of confrontation, he whispers comfort. He offers noise. He tempts you to chase what feels good instead of what is true. And slowly your gaze shifts, your time slips, your fire dims. Not because you're weak, but because your focus was fractured. And that fracture creates a leak. The chosen must practice discipline, not as control, but as devotion. Because what you focus on, you feed, and what you feed grows. Feed the spirit and the spirit grows louder. Feed fear and fear begins to drive your decisions. Feed faith and you begin to move from peace. Feed your distractions and the mission will become blurry. This is why fasting has always been part of spiritual tradition. Not because God requires your hunger, but because hunger teaches clarity. When you remove comforts, what remains is your attention. When you silence the noise, you finally hear the signal. And the signal is always there, always waiting, always pulsing with truth, but you can only catch it when you are present. The mind left untrained will wander toward what is easy. The body left untrained will seek what is comfortable, but the spirit, it yearns for truth. And truth often asks you to look away from what the world celebrates. The truth often requires you to be misunderstood. The truth will ask you to walk slowly when others are running. It will ask you to stand still when others are chasing. And it will always lead you back to one question. What are you feeding? Your pain or your promise? Your doubt or your destiny? You cannot feed both and expect to grow in power. You must choose what you magnify. Every single day you are offered thousands of choices. Some seem small, but each one is a thread. Each thought, each reaction, each scroll, each moment of silence or speech, it becomes the architecture of your reality. This is why mindfulness is not a luxury. It is not a trend. For the chosen, it is a requirement. You must walk awake. You must not sleepwalk through your life, waiting for a sign to change. You are the sign, you are the movement, and your attention is the compass. There are times when clarity comes like a flood, washing away all doubt. But more often, it comes like a whisper, a faint tug, a gentle nudge that says, not this way. But to hear it, you must be quiet enough to receive it. And to receive it, you must stop giving your energy to everything that has nothing to do with your purpose. Social media is not the enemy. Entertainment is not the enemy. People are not the enemy. The enemy is anything that slowly pulls you out of presence and away from divine awareness. The enemy is not always what looks evil. It is often what seems harmless, but steals your attention inch by inch, until you forget to feel your breath, to hear your heart, to sense the guidance of God in this moment. The ancient warriors trained for years to learn how to hold stillness in the middle of movement, because stillness is not about freezing, it is about focus. You can be moving and still be centered. You can be busy and still be rooted. You can be in the world and not of it, but only if you stay aligned with truth. That truth is always present. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it simply waits. Waits for you to return. Return to now. Return to breath. Return to the awareness that you are not here by accident, and you are not walking alone. Your walk must be sacred, even in a world that makes the sacred seem strange. That means you must practice where your eyes rest, what your ears take in, what words you release. You cannot speak life and poison in the same breath and expect peace. You cannot drink doubt every day and expect your faith to grow. What you feed becomes your reality. It becomes your vibration. And your vibration either attracts alignment or resistance. This is not about fear. This is about freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. Freedom is the ability to choose what serves your higher calling over what feeds your lower habits. And that ability begins with focus. Attention is energy, and your energy is currency. Every minute you spend is an investment. What are you investing in? What reality are you funding with your thoughts, with your speech, with your attention? Do not expect to walk in divine vision while feeding your distractions with devotion. July 10 is not just a date. It is a symbolic portal for awakening. The energy surrounding this day is not ordinary. It is sharp. It is divine. It is meant to open eyes, to cut through illusion, to draw you back to purpose. But preparation must begin within. You must train your focus like a muscle. You must bring it back again and again. And when you fall asleep spiritually, wake up again. And again and again. Because consistency is stronger than intensity. The chosen do not rely on emotion. They move from principle. Every morning you have a choice. You can feed your spirit before your phone. You can move your body before you scroll. You can sit in silence before you speak to the world. And when you do, you send a message, not just to your mind, but to heaven. You say, I am ready to receive. I am ready to listen. I am ready to be led. That posture changes everything. That posture magnetizes alignment. The chosen know that focus is a form of worship. It is not just what you do in church, it is what you choose in each moment. Worship is not only music, it is the decision to not entertain fear. It is the refusal to gossip. It is the discipline to pause before reacting. It is the courage to redirect your mind when it spirals. These are not small acts. These are sacred offerings. These are the real altars you build with your life. Your mind may wander, your energy may dip, you may be tempted to give in to the momentum of the world. But remember, the one who can still the waters within has more power than the one who controls the storm outside. Power is not noise. Power is clarity. It is inner stillness. It is quiet confidence. It is knowing that what God has placed in you cannot be stolen, but it can be squandered if your focus is not protected. Guard your gates. Watch what you consume. Watch what you repeat. Your subconscious listens closely, and the words you rehearse become the blueprint of your reality. If you constantly say, "I'm tired," you train your system to feel weak. If you say nothing ever changes, you block your ability to evolve. Speak with intention. Speak what you want to align with. Speak what reflects heaven, not just habit. There will always be more things to do, more people to please, more information to process. But peace is found in priority. And the highest priority of the chosen is presence. Being present is not passive. It is powerful. When you are truly present, fear dissolves. When you are truly present, wisdom speaks. When you are truly present, the next step becomes obvious. But presence requires protection. You must defend your attention like it is gold, because it is. There are many things you will never be able to control. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control other people's opinions. You cannot control the weather, but you can control your focus. You can train your mind to return to the breath, to the prayer, to the path. And when your focus is anchored in God, the storms around you may howl, but your peace remains, and that peace becomes your power. There is a silent strength in the one who has trained their attention. They are not easily swayed. They are not constantly distracted. They do not chase everything that shines, because they know not everything that glitters is gold. Some things are traps. Some things are simply noise, wearing a mask of importance. Discernment comes from stillness, and stillness comes from focus. And focus comes from daily practice. You don't need more time, you need more clarity. You don't need more motivation, you need more alignment. And alignment comes from remembering every single day what matters most. The world will try to convince you that urgency means importance. But heaven moves in rhythm, not in panic. The Spirit of God does not rush, it flows. And when you are in flow, your steps are guided. You don't have to force, you don't have to fear, you simply have to focus. This is the call, not to strive harder, but to see clearer, to return to your center, to know that your breath is sacred, your thoughts are creative, your emotions are signals, and your attention is power. The chosen cannot afford to give their energy to everything, not because they're better, but because they're assigned. And assignment demands attention. Assignment demands discipline. 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 Assignment demands. From now until July 10, every moment matters. Not because something magical will fall from the sky, but because your internal preparation will decide what you are able to receive. What you focus on will either open the gates of heaven or lock you inside your own limitation. You were not called to live in reaction. You were called to walk in revelation. And revelation comes to those who are ready, who are awake, who are watching, not the news, but the spirit. So be still, be sharp, be present. Let the noise pass. Let the temptations go unanswered. Let the distractions fall away like leaves in the wind. And beneath it all, return to what matters. Return to truth. Return to attention. Because attention is where the power begins.